Seeing Nora again had me really wondering about which mother would I like to see more often. Like, if I had to choose between Barb and Nora, who would I choose? I think the answer is kind of obvious, but let's talk about Barb and Nora because they present as the top two awful mothers in the Shawnaverse. We know there's another mom who was just as bad, and that was Barb's mom. We're going to talk about both of these characters and compare them because while they are both awful, they're awful in their own ways. And at the time where Barb seems to believe that her and Nora are one and the same, they are two very different characters. Hey, my name is Shauna A. I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor supervisor, and I help innovative service driven clinicians and helping pros expand out their practices beyond the couch. From time to time, I love giving commentary on the Shawnaverse. Today, we're going to be talking about Barb and Nora. I watched Jen's wedding recently and I've given commentary on that. If you haven't seen it already, check it out here. And I saw a lot of people make some comparisons between Barb and Nora. I didn't really think about how different these characters are until I started to see the comparisons. And then I realized these are both awful characters, but two totally different people in the same family line. So remember, Nora is kind of like Barb's great aunt, which makes Sam Barb's cousin, but it's like her second cousin. It's like a cousin that's like twice removed or something like that, and they are connected through a marriage, and that makes Nora a great aunt or something like that. Cousin, aunt, cousin, something. Anyway, they're connected by marriage and a family. And we also know that Nora looks down on Barb's grandmother because she called her an awful woman back in the Thanksgiving episode. We know that they've played tennis together back in the day, and I felt like there was some implication that maybe Barb and Nora had a thing going on because they're not related by blood, they're related by marriage, but I can't remember exactly. That happened in the Thanksgiving episode. Now, here we are in the present, and we can see that Barb has been trying to re engage in contact with Nora. We see this in the episode of Chicky's birthday when she runs into Sam and she kind of hints at, oh, Nora did this. She was placing all the blame on Nora. And Sam was kind of telling us that Nora was out living her life playing pickleball. So we see the pickleball thing kind of come back in this latest episode of Jen's wedding, where Barb joins Nora in playing pickleball. And this just goes back to Barb playing tennis. They were good double partners at one point in time. As you know, I've taken my notes. I've got 3 pages of notes, and this is really meant to be a comparison because what I see is that though both of them are awful, they're awful in very different ways. For example, Nora appears to be a bratty kind of character. People are calling her another word that I'm not going to say here, but she's the kind of character that is just always up to some shenanigans, which can be very frustrating for people. And Barb is the kind of character that her shenanigans is just not meant to be tricks. Her shenanigans are meant to elevate herself and harm or hurt others so that she could be elevated in some kind of way. La 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 la. Nora is a trickster, as I like to say. She enjoys the shenanigans. And we see in the end of the wedding episode, in the bloopers or the director's cut or the extended edition, where Shauna shows us at one point, Nora says to Barb, like something along the lines of, let's get into shenanigans, or we can get into shenanigans. When nobody likes you, who cares? Let's get into some shenanigans. Nora is about the shenanigans. But the thing that stands out about Nora is that even though she's a trickster, she's into some shenanigans. She's not doing it to necessarily be harmful. She's doing it for her own entertainment. So her shenanigans has a bit of a line. She has a boundary. We can also see that in the Thanksgiving episode, she was okay to salt those potatoes at Barb's behest because she thought that Katie was a tart. Barb told her that Katie was a bad person, and therefore Nora was okay because she thought that just Katie was not all that great of a person. She didn't realize that Barb was actually lying to her. And when she did realize, she was accountable for it. She was like, oh, my bad. But Nora also doesn't have any attachments. We can see this in her relationship with Sam. We can see this in when she's like, just forget about it or forget it in her own colorful language. So Nora does things, she doesn't really hold on to it. She's kind of like, whoops, I did that, my bad. And she keeps moving forward. Or when she is engaging in some trickery or when she is being slightly mean, she's also in it for a purpose that isn't necessarily to elevate herself. So, for example, when she's playing pickleball and she's talking to that guy and she's kind of like talking smack on the court, she's really doing that to get into his head so that she could play the game of pickleball. But it's not intended to harm that person. It's just getting into their head so that they can play the game, so that she could be the trickster, so that she can one up them on the court, not necessarily in life. Another thing that we know about Nora is that she has a child. Her child is Sam. And there's only one thing that I've seen Nora really kind of deny or be in denial about, which is Sam's identity. We see in the Thanksgiving episode that comes up, and that's where Nora acts kind of surprised, and Sam's like, it is what it is. This is who I am. And there wasn't really much about it, but Barb was really using that or attempting to use that to see if it would get underneath Nora's skin. And it really didn't. She was kind of like, no, you're not, or she was kind of denying it. However, it wasn't something that seemed to be getting underneath Nora's skin. As a matter of fact, I haven't seen what truly gets underneath Nora's skin yet. The whole thing about Nora is that she seems to know who she is, and she seems to be accepting of who she is. Whereas Barb, on the other hand, she uses shenanigans, but it's to create personal hurt and to elevate herself. John and Jen are her children, and she doesn't spare them in her shenanigans. We have seen this throughout her whole time in the Shawnaverse. Everything that she does is really meant to elevate herself. We see this when she gets the ultimate car garage from Max. It was really meant so that she can be the best person in the room. And she was incredibly frustrated where she thought that Max would have three ultimate car garages, and she demanded that both of them were to be taken back. We now know there was only two because John actually lied about what they were going to get from Max. But this really bothered Barb because it was a cut at her opportunity to have the best gift and to elevate herself, even if it was coming at the expense of her own children. We also have seen this when Barb attempts to get the ultimate Barbie playhouse for Piper. Even at the time where John had gone no contact with Barb, she knew that she wasn't invited, but she went over there anyways, and she tried to go over there with the biggest gift that she could possibly get. This is another way that she tries to undermine her own children in the sense of, I'm going to do the biggest thing. I don't care what anybody thinks because bigger is better, and this is going to elevate me. We also see this in her own emotional responses when it comes to Jen. And Jen does say in the deleted scenes, Mom, I'm not going to cater to your emotional well being right now. Because Barb expects everybody else to cater to her emotions. When she jumps at the wedding and she says, I can't take it anymore, that is meant for people to look and to cater to why Barb might be crying at a wedding. And again, Jen says, it's okay. You can cry. You can act this way because people cry at weddings. It's not a big deal. And once she realized that, she changed her tune. The thunder is thundering out here. Unlike Nora, it appears that Barb wants to be attached, but she wants to be attached as the center, as the head. And nobody else gets to make any choices. Nobody else gets to do anything if Barb is not being honored and the most important person in the space. That's where the stifling and the shrinking comes in. And Barb will do exactly that to make sure that she gets exactly what she wants. Barb seeks control and acceptance and obedience from everybody around her in order to get exactly what she wants. And she'll go as deep and as mean as she wants to. If we notice during the wedding episode, when Barb calls Jen entitled and she says, "You better hurry up and get to that altar before Greg runs away," Nora says, "That was mean." Even though Nora had her things to say about Jen, "Oh, you upset it." Nora's dismissal isn't meant to be a low blow, and it isn't meant to make herself the center of the room. It's just meant to dismiss, maybe potentially de-escalate, because it's not fun for her. It's just kind of like, oh, here you are being upset. Like, what is there to be upset about on your wedding day? But Barb engages in what she engages in because she feels entitled to being the most important person in the room. Barb wants to be centered. She loves the attention and she will do anything to gain that attention. The big thing that Barb continuously harps on is the loss of Jen's attention. The reason why she's so mad and constantly brings up Thanksgiving to Nora is because she has lost Jen's attention. And the only time that Jen shows up right now is when she actually wants something from Barb. And Barb attempts to leverage what Jen may want for her. Barb doesn't really seem to know who she is. And even in the moments where she's had a great moment, like when Jen was in the hospital giving birth to Chicky, it's hard to decipher why she was doing that. Was she doing this to center herself in this experience? Perhaps, because the way that she talks about it after the fact is, "I was there for Chicky's birth. It is the day that I witnessed my granddaughter coming into this world. I delivered her. She's named after me." It is not, "I was there to help my child." It didn't seem like it was about helping, and it didn't seem like it was about supporting. It seemed like, this is another story. This is another leverage that I get to utilize. Even when Jen asked for Barb to plan Chicky's birthday, she kept trying to emphasize that Jen picked her because she knows that she's the best. "Oh, mom, you plan great parties. Oh, mom, you do this." She wanted to pick out everybody's outfits. She wanted to make it all about her doing something magnificent and great, her being the center of attention, her witnessing Chicky's birth. It's about Barb, it's not about anybody else. And everybody else has to shrink underneath her in order for her to be the most important person in the room. And even when Barb has the opportunities for these moments, they go over her head because she doesn't know who she is. And she has a really hard time recognizing when her children, specifically Jen, are trying to honor her and trying to make her a part of things. From Barb, it's either all or nothing. So, like I said, I think the big things here between Nora and Barb, both of them are tricksters in some kind of way and they engage in some shenanigans. But Barb really uses her shenanigans to proposition herself above everybody else. She uses her tricks to hurt others and to center herself, and she has no bounds. Nora seems to have some boundaries. Her tricks have a purpose, it's really for her entertainment, but she doesn't intentionally hurt people, especially when she doesn't feel like it's justified. Nora can also take accountability for the things that she does and what she engages in, because ultimately Nora is self serving. She's looking out for herself. And she owns that. She's accepting of who she is and what she wants and how she wants it. And while she may go about it in a way that shows that she doesn't care about anybody else but herself, it's not her intention to harm people to get there. I really think that Nora just really tries to prank others, not to hurt others. And still going back to that Thanksgiving episode, I really think that salting those potatoes for Barb was meant to position herself as the best cook. I'm pretty sure that Barb makes potatoes. If we think back to the episode where they did Thanksgiving as a family, and Mama D, where Mama D was able to call out Barb very eloquently. I'm pretty sure Mama D brought a dish, and Barb was really upset because she was going all out of her way to make this very big Thanksgiving that first year. This year with Katie, again, I think this was a moment where Barb really wanted to position herself, really wanted to make Katie look bad and indicate that Katie can't cook. And if this prank went off the way that Barb had hoped in her mind, which is that nobody knew that Barb and Nora salted the potatoes, then it would just look like Katie doesn't know how to cook or that Katie can't be trusted in the kitchen. So we'll never eat any dishes of Katie's. And therefore, Barb is the best hostess and the best cook. And Barb saves the day with her really good food on Thanksgiving. But because Nora is a prankster, she can't hold the water. And so, this moment that everybody tasted the potatoes and they're like, blah, Nora has won her prank, essentially speaking. It has gone off without a hitch. Nobody suspected a thing. And now she can reveal herself and say, I got you. Ha ha. And that's not the way that Barb was looking at it. We can see in that instance that Barb was very quiet. Nora's intention was to be a prank. Barb's intention was to harm or hurt so that she could be elevated in that instance, which is why Jen was so upset. All in all, you know what you can get from Nora and you know what to expect. And I think Nora's invitation in the deleted scenes to create more shenanigans with Barb is only going to spread harm, which leads me to wonder how much more will Nora put up? Or is Barb going to convert Nora? The big thing that we see with Barb is that she lies and she twists things to prop herself up. We even see this when Barb talks to Mama D and tells her that she graduated therapy. We know that's not what happened, but by her saying that she graduated therapy, this is her way of saying, I don't need to do anything else. I'm good. And if someone calls her out and says, you have some healing to do, she can say, a therapist doesn't seem to think so. I graduated therapy. She also indicates that they wanted her to come back and to have some additional talks. That's where the truth lies. But remember, everything that Barb tells us is a bit of an admission. The bit of there's something there, there's something more. It's not necessarily the truth. It's something to get people further away from the person that she truly might actually be. And at the end of the day, Barb doesn't really know herself. So she doesn't know if she's a good person or if she's truly a monster. And while everybody else sees a monster, Barb tries to put more things in place to attempt to make her seem like she's not. Nora's kind of authentic, though, again, a bit of a brat. Barb can't possibly be authentic yet. And it goes without saying, when you see Barb's origin episode, you understand that Barb has had a traumatic upbringing. She had a parent who was incredibly hard on her, at times somewhat abusive. And we also see that Barb has had some issues with her body. All of that comes into play as she becomes older, and it is implied that she is somehow unlovable. When her mom says, all of my kids loved me when they were born, and that's why they were good, that's an implication that John didn't love Barb. And when she expresses to Frank in a panic that she's feeling overwhelmed and sometimes she feels like putting her head in the oven, that was an admission to say, I can't handle this. I don't feel loved. And when Frank dismissed her, that made something in her mind click to say, he's only around for the fun that he can get under thy skirt. This leads Barb to believe that the only time she could be loved is when she's doing something for others. And she doesn't want to do that. So she's consistently elevating herself, making herself different, along with the body issues that she already had. She's constantly shifting herself, trying to put herself in the eye of others as, I'm an incredibly good person. You should absolutely love me. But you can't get there because she has so much to shift through from her childhood and the ongoing depression that she may have held past her postpartum years. Those are my thoughts on Barb and Nora, what makes them different. even though we see these parallel awful characters next to one another. What are your thoughts? Let me know below. And now it is the time to talk about what we think may happen in the coming episodes. I predict we're going to see more of Nora. We're going to see Barb at her absolute worst, engaged in some shenanigans, and maybe we might see Frank's breaking point with Barb. Let me know your predictions in the comments below, and I will see y'all soon. Bye for now.